Hi, my name is Chris and this is Battle Nonsense. There are two things in Battlefield 4 that make me very angry when they happen. The first one is when I die very far behind cover, and the other one is when my shots don't register during vehicle combat. The reason why we have these issues can be found in how the hit registration works in Battlefield 4 and how it handles the player's latency. In one of my previous videos I explained and demonstrated how the server decides if it should confirm or deny a hit, and what role the latency of the shooter, the speed of the target and the server's frame history time play in this process. So since I explained all of that in my previous video, I recommend that you pause this video and watch the other one first before you continue here. Okay, so in the retail version of Battlefield 4 we have one single FHT or frame history time value that is used for both infantry and vehicle combat. Now, since vehicles travel much faster than infantry, you have to set the FHT value quite high to ensure that players who have a reasonable ping get their hits registered by the server during vehicle combat. The initial summer patch showed us what a too low FHT value can cause, as players who had a ping of just 75 milliseconds got no hit markers anymore during a dogfight, while infantry players noticed that they died much less behind cover. So that we have just one FHT value for everything is a technical limitation in the current design of the hit registration, and it forces the developers to use a value that does not break vehicle combat at reasonable pings, which sadly means that during infantry combat you will die very far behind cover if the shooter has a very high ping. So to be able to reduce the issue of taking damage behind cover during infantry combat without breaking vehicle combat, I suggested that separating the FHT values for infantry and vehicles might do the trick. But I also said that I do not expect this to happen anytime soon, as it will probably require a lot of low engine coding to get this separation done. But as it turned out, I was wrong with that assumption, because yesterday Dicely introduced DUAL FHT support in the Battlefield 4 CTE. This means that currently there are a few CTE servers which use an FHT value of 0.125 for infantry combat, while the FHT value for vehicle combat is set to 1. So by using a very low value just for infantry combat and a higher one for vehicle combat, we significantly improve the issue of taking damage behind cover during infantry combat while not breaking vehicle combat. Now 0.125 sounds familiar. That's because this is the value the summer patch used initially, which means that if the shooter has a ping of less than 250 milliseconds, then the server will confirm his hits on a running infantry player. And when the shooter's ping is higher than 250 milliseconds, then the server will reject the hit and the player that he is shooting at will not take any damage. So infantry combat on consoles will probably benefit the most from this DUAL FHT support, as admins on console do not have the ability to kick high ping players automatically from their server. But it's not just consoles that benefit from it, because you have to consider that the admin does not even have the ability to kick players when the server is using the official preset. So with the separation of the FHT values for infantry and vehicle combat, the infantry gameplay should become much less frustrating now on all platforms when there are high ping players on the server. Now, I don't know about you, but I really want to get this feature to retail as fast as possible, and this means to get it included in the fall patch. But this is a brand new feature and it has not received much testing yet. So it is once again in our hands how soon this feature will hit retail, as we can help the developers to stress test it in the Battlefield 4 community test environment. So if you want to help, then in the description of this video you will find links to the CTE servers that are currently using separate FHT values for infantry and vehicles. So if you have time, then please play on these servers and then report your experience in the CTE Subreddit or directly to David Sirland on Twitter. If we provide them with enough data so that they feel confident that the feature works, then there is a chance that we will see this in the changelog of the fall patch. So the fundamental issue that the new separate infantry FHT value addresses is that there are quite a lot of people who play on servers to which they have a way too high ping. And they then cause that low ping players have a bad experience on that server, which in my opinion is just unacceptable. But why would you even join a server to which you have a 3-digit ping? Well, there are many reasons, which I did talk about in the past already. Number one is that EA happily sold the game worldwide, but did not ensure that all players who bought it actually have servers near them to be able to play at a decent ping. On PC we do have a fair amount of server locations, especially inside Europe, but in the Middle East, India, North and South Africa, as well as in other regions, there are no servers. It's even worse on consoles where only East Coast US, West Coast US, Europe, Asia and Australia have servers available. And it appears like there's just one single location inside each of these regions where the servers are located. While on the PC we have dozens of server locations in Europe alone. So this situation with the lack of server locations is forcing players to join servers to which they have 100 or even 200 milliseconds ping, because these are the best servers that EA provides them with. They don't want to cause you a bad time, they just want to play the game that they were sold by EA. And it is EA who has to do something about the server situation, as they make the contracts with the game server providers. Number 2. When I do a search in the server browser, then the results are not automatically sorted by the ping. This causes that when I do a search on my console, then the first page is usually filled with East and West Coast servers, to which I have a ping of about 120 to 180 milliseconds, while the servers for my own region show up on the second page in the search results. After every search, the server browser has to sort the results based by the ping, to ensure that players join servers inside of their own region. Number 3. Many players do not know how to interpret the signal strength icon on console. Even worse, the retail version of Battlefield 4 uses pretty ridiculous ranges for these bars, which caused that in example players from Europe join West Coast US servers, as the game shows them 4 of 5 bars. Also, the in-game warning icons for the latency is triggered at a relatively low value compared to these ranges here. This can then cause that players get confused, as they can see this icon appear on a server to which they have 4 of 5 bars. These ping ranges have now been changed by DICE in the last CTE patch, so that they are now in line with the latency warning icon, and in general use values that actually make sense. However, if this change gets included in the fall patch, then this will sadly also mean that less informed players will jump to the conclusion that the patch made their ping worse. So we better prepare ourselves that we have to tell them that their ping didn't change at all. It's the icons which now show them how good or bad it actually is. So these new ranges are really nice, but I wouldn't stop here. In addition to that, I would again like to propose that the designers apply colors to each of these ranges to make it very clear how good or bad a certain value is. And consoles also finally need to get the numerical ping value display in addition to the icon, especially in the scoreboard. The game Rocket League shows what that can look like on a console. Reason number 4. When a player wants to play on a specific map or game mode, then he might be forced to join an out-of-region server when there is no server inside of his own region that runs this map or game mode. This is something that can't really be avoided, as the amount of active players and populated servers decreases as the game gets older. And lastly, reason number 5. On maps like Metro and Locker, you can actually get an advantage when playing at a very high ping, if you use a high RPM weapon and the run and gun playstyle. However, this means that you have to play at something like 400 milliseconds ping, so that's not really possible anymore with the FHT value set to 0.125, as the server will then reject the hit on a running player when the shooter has a ping of more than 250 milliseconds. So this dual FHT support that we have in the CTE now should really help us with the issues that are created by players who have really high pings, while still allowing those players to play the game who live in a region where EA sold the game but did not ensure that there are servers available as well. If you want this feature as badly as I do, then again please help us to test it in the CTE and report the experience, good and bad, to the developers. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like, subscribe for more, and I hope to see you next time. Until then, have a nice day and take care. My name is Chris and this was Battle Nonsense.